So this is a new 16-inch self-watering pot that I'm trying from Walmart. They have them for, I think it was $7.50. And it's I don't know, maybe 5-gallon pot. Self-watering, you know, probably cheaper than you can make it out of a couple of buckets. So it's a nice little pot. I'm gonna fill it up and maybe put an air layer in it here. See how it does. I like that it's low to the ground. A lot of them you get are much taller, and this one should have some decent stability once the tree gets a little bit higher. Still not great, but better than a 5-gallon bucket at least. Good evening, PA Figs. So I think this Coleodom Blanca-Negra is ready with the air layers that I put on it. It was getting way too tall, so I wanted to make a couple smaller trees out of it. So I think at least one is ready. And as far as I know, I'm one of the few people that have this variety, and it has figs on it. And so far, nobody has actually been able to get multiple colored figs off of theirs. So I'm a little hesitant to take these air layers off without knowing what color or colors this particular tree from Ponds will produce. But I believe this air layer is rooted enough. Let's take a look. Yeah, it is definitely well rooted. You can see the roots go all the way across here on both sides. So it's ready to be removed, I think. It's pretty solid root mass in here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to remove one. I have the greenhouse, which keeps things a little more humid and helps. I'm going to remove one and up-pot it in a self-watering pot that I got and see how it does. I'll leave the other one, this one, on the tree, just in case the one that I take off decides to drop all of its fruit. You can see it's got a few fruits on it. So I'm hoping that they stay, but I want to make sure at least one branch fruits this year. So let's try taking this one off and we'll see how it does over the next few days here. Okay, so here is the air layer. I have cut the air layer off the tree, and this is the pot it's going to go in. So let's go ahead and get this guy unwrapped, and I'll get him in there. Okay, so I've got the plastic wrap off, and you can see here are the roots. Formed a nice little root ball. So we'll see if I can get this potted now. Alright, so I've got the air layer up potted. And you can see I have a stake in it to keep it, you know, somewhat steady. I don't want it wobbling around. You know, I don't get a lot of wind here in the greenhouse. It's pretty protected. But you want that root mass to be able to form and, you know, get solid. It's a pretty tall tree, so you don't want it breaking the roots every time the wind blows. For this one, I'm using a little bit of metal wire, fence wire, to hold it in place. Nothing fancy, I just wanted to be a little more rigid than what string would, and since I can't get the stake right against it, I figured this might help a little bit. I could even pinch this in a little bit. Now I'll have to be careful as this tree grows. I'm going to have to take that wire off or else it'll kill the top of the tree. But you can see this air layer has a real nice shape to it here. It's got multiple limbs coming out in kind of a vase form. Really, really nice. So one thing left to do, I gotta put a little more soil in and mulch it, but then I also have to take off some of the larger leaves. And I do that because the root system can't handle as much moisture to be fed to the plant as a fully rooted tree. So some of the large leaves I'm gonna take off to help reduce the amount of moisture that the tree needs. Okay, so I pulled off quite a few of the larger leaves. You see, here's the pile here. And people always ask, well, how many leaves do you need to pull off? And the answer I have is, I have no idea. And the reason I say that is, it depends on the size of the root mass. If the root mass is larger, if I had used like a 1-gallon container to make that air layer, the roots would have been more significant and it could have handled, you know, more foliage up top. The root ball I had is pretty small, so I cut it back quite a bit. And now what I'll do is, I'll wait until, you know, a day or two and see how it does. If it wilts, I know I need to take more off and keep it more, you know, keep it moister and watered more and more humidity. If it doesn't wilt, I'm good to go. So let's see if I can give you a top view here. give you an idea of what we're looking at. And I only cut off the leaves. I didn't cut off any branches. I don't want it to bleed too much. And you can see, don't pull the leaves off, actually cut them. And the reason you do that is you want the tree to bleed less, as little as possible. And if you pulled off the leaves, you could damage the nodes, you can damage the bark, and the tree's going to bleed a little bit more. This sap that's coming out here is latex. Not a lot will come out, so the tree should be pretty good. So alright, let me go get some more soil to finish filling that pot. Once I watered it, it really it went down quite a bit, so I'm going to get some more soil and some mulch, and I'll show you the end product. Okay, and this is the completed air layer. So again, this is a Colidam Blanca-Negra, and I really like the shape. I really like how this air layer came out. I mean, it's just a beautiful tree right off the bat. So now I gotta hope that cutting it from the main tree doesn't affect it much. And if it doesn't, and if it keeps growing and these ripen, I mean, it's just gonna be a gorgeous, gorgeous tree. I'm really, really happy with how the shape came out. So I'll try to keep everybody updated on what happens here, and wish me luck. I'm PA Figs. Have a good night.